Good morning. My name is Johan Santas. I am a resident of Cranston. I graduated from Cranston East a couple years ago and am now working full-time and also doing school online full-time. I want to thank you all for being here so early in the morning. I want to thank everyone who's been watching. What's up, everyone? I am here to oppose this bill, and I want to start off by reading this quote. It's an anonymous quote, but it says, "History repeats itself because no one was listening the first time." And my prayer, my hope, is that someone is listening. And I've seen the phrase, "we won't go back," a lot today in the past few months. But I want to take a look at this, because to think about what it means to go back, I think is the direction that our nation is taking right now. And so a little bit of a history lesson. In ancient Greece, thousands of years ago, I'm not talking decades, in ancient Greece, the practice of an infanticide was very common. Families would intentionally expose their unwanted children to the wilderness, to the elements, because they were unwanted, for the sake of financial stability and cultural standing. Historians argue that during this time in ancient Greece, 50% of children did not make it because of intentional exposure and neglect. A PhD in historian named Helen Illustrator, she writes this, and I really want to make a point about what she says. She says, "Most of these neglected and murdered infants would have been female because ancient Greek society was misogynist. Women were considered mentally and physically inferior to men, and they were a financial burden because women and daughters, they had dowries required for them. So they were physically and mentally less than anyone else, and they were a financial burden. Still, in societies today, it is estimated that 2 million female infants die each year because they are simply unwanted." Wow. The reason I read this is to come against the lie that says that those that promote abortion are standing up for women. If this was the reality, we would be standing up for the millions of women in the womb. Rather than protecting women from being killed, we're advocating their killing for the sake of economic comfort and cultural security. In other words, we rather kill these women in the womb than give up our dreams of driving the newest Tesla. The Spartans practiced infanticide as well. But they were actually a little bit different than the rest of the ancient Greeks. They were actually to the point where other Greeks were offended by what they did, because it wasn't just women, it was men who just maybe were disabled and weren't fit to be the soldiers. But on top of all this, the Spartans practiced infanticide, and the deciding factor on whether a child got to live was not the parents, but the state. The fathers say did not matter. It was not the fact of murdering children that other Greeks found offensive because they did the same, but the fact that a father did not have a say over the fate of his sons, and that was the law. That was legislation. History will repeat itself if no one is listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?